Good morning, everybody, and welcome to this morning's presentation of transitioning from CAD to BIM. I'm Mark Hensey, Senior Account Executive at Revit CAD Solutions, and I'm really pleased to be here today with Jeff Krentar, our award-winning Revit trainer and application engineer. Special thanks to Alberto for performing his technical magic to put this whole presentation together. Our focus today will be on a specific step in BIM adoption, the creation of a Revit model from 2D data. What's BIM? BIM, or Building Information Modeling, is a three-dimensional digital representation of a building from which the plans, sections, elevations, perspectives, spreadsheets, and other output useful to the realization of design are created. Once we've covered this aspect of the BIM process, we'll turn our focus to collaboration. Successful adoption of BIM means being able to share the information in our model throughout the building process and among all the stakeholders in the project. This is accomplished with tools like Collaboration for Revit and BIM 360 Team. At the end of our presentation, we'll have time for some questions and answers. Also, please be aware that until October 21st, there's a special Autodesk promotion that will get you 50% off of a 3-year term license when trading in an old Autodesk license. But first, let's see how easy it is to begin by converting 2D data and begin to assemble a BIM model using Revit. Jeff?
So here we are in AutoCAD. The first thing we have to do in AutoCAD is get our drawings ready so that they could be linked into our Revit model. And to get them ready, it's nice to have separate drawings for each part of our model. For example, if we're bringing in multi-story, we want to have a separate floor plan in separate drawings. So we have level 1 in one drawing, and we have level 2 in another drawing. We don't want them to be in the same drawing, just kind of floating around here. We want to have separate drawings. That'll be a little bit cleaner when we bring it into Revit. Another thing we need to do is we need to keep in mind that we're going to be bringing in these drawings and stacking them on top of each other. We're going to be linking them into our Revit project, stacking them on top of each other, so that we need to keep the origin in mind too. So our 0, 0 in AutoCAD is what's going to be on the project origin in Revit. So I've already moved my AutoCAD files so that when I bring my level 1 in and then I bring my level 2 in, they're stacked right up on top of each other. I have that same point in AutoCAD at 0, 0. I also have my elevation set up, so when I bring my south elevation in, it knows that this point here is going to be on the left side of my building. So this point here is going to be on the origin. So we take all of this into account before we link it into Revit. And if you don't get it perfect, it's no big deal. You can always move it around in Revit too, but it's a little bit easier to do it right here if you're going to be removing the link and linking it back again maybe later. Because not only are we linking files into Revit, but somebody can also still be working on this AutoCAD file. And if somebody's changing this AutoCAD file, we can see those changes. It's almost like an XREF. So these AutoCAD files are already cleaned up, and now we're going to go into Revit. Okay, so here we are in Revit, and right now I'm just in this blank template. It's very simple. I'm going to go to my level 1 floor plan. This is my project browser. And this is the beauty of Revit. This is how we can switch between all different ways of viewing our three-dimensional model. So we're going to be working in this model. It's all one project, and it's split up a bunch of different ways so we can view it. So if we slice through it and look down, it's a floor plan. We slice through it and look up, it's a ceiling plan. We'll be making elevations and sections and 3D views, and even schedules are considered different ways of viewing information about your project. And this is where we switch between these views. So I'm in my level 1 floor plan now, and I'm going to start linking my AutoCAD file into it. So to do that, I go to my Insert tab on my ribbon, There's a little link CAD here. I'll browse to my AutoCAD file. So my AutoCAD file for level 1 is here. And different ways we can bring in our AutoCAD file. Before you get trigger happy and double click on the file, you want to make sure you fill this out first. Positioning. I'm going to make it origin to origin so that my origin in AutoCAD lines up with my origin in Revit. It's going to go on level 1. My colors. Do I want to bring in my colors the way they were in AutoCAD? I could preserve the colors, or I could bring them in black and white. Couple of different options we have here. I usually keep these, if I'm going to be drawing over the AutoCAD file, if I'm going to trace over it, I'll usually keep that set to preserve because I want to be able to see what's in AutoCAD and what's in Revit. You'll see here it says layers levels. We can bring in all of the layers from AutoCAD. We could bring in only the visible layers, the layers that were on and thawed in that AutoCAD file, or you can specify which layers you want to bring in, and a little dialog box will pop up telling us what layers we want, where we can specify what layers we want to bring in. We're going to say visible. It's going to automatically detect the units in the AutoCAD file and bring that into Revit. So everything looks pretty good. We've selected our file, we've filled everything out, and we're going to hit open. Okay, so here we are in our AutoCAD file. The origin, well, we've linked in the AutoCAD file, but the origin is about in the center of this Revit project. You'll see these elevation markers in Revit, and the origin in AutoCAD was about here. So we don't want to move the AutoCAD file. The AutoCAD file is exactly where we need it. But we're going to move these elevation markers, so I'm going to take care of that real fast. I'll move them, kind of eyeball it, make it look good. Okay, so the level 1 file is in. Now I'm going to go up to level 2. And I'll bring in my level 2. I could still see my level 1 below it because of something in Revit called an underlay, where you're able to use another level as a reference. And we could talk more about that later if we need to. But we're going to go back to Insert, Link CAD. I'm going to choose level 2 this time. Same thing, I'm preserving the colors, I'm bringing in all of the visible layers. It's automatically going to detect the units. And I'm bringing it in auto origin to origin so that the origin in AutoCAD lines up with the origin in Revit. Good, so now we've brought in our level 2. So if I go to my 3D view real fast, I'm going to click on this little house right here to go to my 3D view. You'll see I just have these two flat drawings kind of sitting on top of each other. And we can use that. We can use that to start our Revit model. I'm going to go to my south elevation just so we could have one elevation in here. So I'm going to go to Insert, Link CAD. I'll go to my south elevation. Fill all of this stuff out just like we did earlier. Okay, and we'll hit open. And this is all stuff that we cover in our classes in our ATC center as well, so you don't have to remember everything right now. If you need help with this, you can always give us a call, and we can even set you up for some training in our training room or on site. We have these two levels in Revit. These levels you can adjust. I'm going to adjust the length of these so they kind of match the levels that came in with our AutoCAD file. So we have these levels that came in with AutoCAD. Kind of a little bit hard to see, but just eyeballing it, making it close. And I could take this Revit level and move it up to my AutoCAD level using an align command. So I'm aligning my Revit level to my AutoCAD level. Now I need to create new levels for these. We only have 2 levels in Revit, and we need levels for the roof and the parapet. So for that, I'm going to go to my level command on my architecture tab. So I'm creating levels. I'm using this awesome pick line tool because we have these lines in AutoCAD that we could just pick on and make Revit levels. So I took care of that. Now if we look in the project browser, you'll see here we have all of these levels, levels 1 through 4. And we can rename them. We can rename them right here on the level marker. I'm going to name this roof. Would you like to rename corresponding views, which means if you rename it here, do you also want to rename the floor plans and ceiling plans that are associated to that level? I'm going to say yes. Beautiful. And I could just adjust these levels a little bit nicer so they're in line with my other Revit levels. Perfect. So the levels are in place, and we're going to go to our level 1 floor plan now. And maybe the next thing we want to do is put the grids in. So on the same tab, the architecture tab, right by our level command, we have the grid command. So I'm going to do grid. Same thing, we have this beautiful pick line tool. I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to start clicking on all of these lines from AutoCAD and converting them into our Revit grid. And look how it numbers them. It automatically numbers them in the order that I'm clicking on them. So it did 1 through 7. Now if I click on this guy up here, it's going to make this number 8. So I'm going to hit escape a few times. I'll double click inside of there and I'll put an A inside of it. And now if I make any new grids, it'll know to keep that format. So since that's A, it's going to know that this one's B, C, and so on. Okay. Beautiful. So we're in our level 1 floor plan. We have our grid already. If at some point you decide you want to turn off your AutoCAD grids or anything from your AutoCAD drawing, I'm going to go to my visibility graphics. To get to visibility graphics, I'm going to type in VV. It opens up this box, and this is your categories in Revit. And every view has its own set of categories. So we're in level 1, and if we turn off any of the categories, it's only going to turn it off for level 1. It's not going to affect any of the other levels. And that's how we control what we want to see on paper when we're on each view, almost like layers in AutoCAD. So we've imported an AutoCAD file, and I want to see those layers that came in with AutoCAD. So I'm going to click on Imported Categories. You'll see the different drawings that we've brought in. We brought in our 2 floor plans and our elevation. And if I expand 09, level 1, the level 1 drawing, if I expand that, I'll get all of these layers that came in with the AutoCAD drawing. Now, if you're not sure which layer came in with the AutoCAD drawing, it's pretty easy to tell. It's probably S-grid, S-grid identification is probably the number. But if you're not sure, you can always hit OK. And if you click on anything inside the AutoCAD drawing, like one of these walls, there's a little query up here. So we could click on that, click on one of our grid lines, and it'll tell us, oh, that's on the S-grid layer. We can hide that layer. We could say hide in view. And now basically what it did is it went to the visibility graphics and it hid that for us. We could do another one. I'm going to click on the AutoCAD file, query. Maybe I'll click on the bubble this time. And it says, oh, that's S-grid ident. And I'm going to hide that one as well. So you could hide AutoCAD layers. And when we did it that way, it's just like hiding it in visibility graphics. If I type in VV and go to visibility graphics, I'll go back to imported categories, expand that drawing so I can see the layers inside that drawing, level 1. And you'll see I turned off those layers just in this view. Okay. Next we're going to start the model. So we're going to get some information from our AutoCAD file. How thick is this wall here? There's a little measure tool up here on your quick access toolbar. A little measure tool right here. I'm going to click on this. And then if we click on 2 points on this wall, See, okay, that wall is 1 foot 5.5 inches thick. So I'm going to start the wall command. We're on level 1. The base of our wall is going to be on level 1, so I'll start the wall command. And we can choose all different wall types from our type selector here. You'll see a lot of generic wall types, and some of the wall types that you need might not even be in here, and you can create custom wall types. I'll start with this generic 12-inch wall right now because I don't really know what materials my wall is going to be made up of. So I'll start with this generic 12-inch wall. But I will edit it, make a new wall type to match the thickness of this wall here. So I'm going to go to Edit Type, duplicate it, name it generic 17.5 inches. We have our generic 17.5 inches. We could have named that anything. That means nothing to us. That's just the name of the wall type. But we want to go to this Edit button next to Structure and give it a thickness here. So I'm going to make that 5.5. Good, and hit OK. Good, so we have a brand new wall type. Now we have this wall type. It's built into this project now. We don't have to make that again. We can set the height of the wall. The height of the wall is going to go all the way up to the parapet. And as we're drawing this wall, I'm going to be tracing around the exterior face of the wall. So over here we could tell it, well, while you're clicking on this AutoCAD file, what's going to go in its place. The finish face exterior of the Revit wall will be right where we're clicking on the AutoCAD file. And as you're drawing these Revit walls, I'm drawing them clockwise, and it's good when you're first learning Revit to try to draw clockwise. That's not always going to be the rule. It sounds pretty limiting. It's not always going to be the rule. It'll change. There are ways to flip the walls, and while you're drawing, there's little tricks and things. But right now, I'm just kind of drawing clockwise and tracing over my AutoCAD file. We can place doors, we can draw our interior walls just the same way. So if I started the wall command, we're kind of running out of time here, so we're not going to have time to model this entire thing, but you'll get the idea how I could pick a wall type, choose a location line, give it a height, and start tracing over them. Good, so if I go to my 3D view right now, you'll see we put in the exterior walls, and we also have these 3 interior walls, and using the same tools that we've just talked about, you can create all the walls in this project, and it won't take too long. I'm going to go to level 1 floor plan now, and there's a great door command. If I go to the door command, you'll see different door types that we can choose from in the type selector. But there's a load family icon up here, and there's a library that comes with Revit of stuff that we can load into our project. So this is all like Revit right out of the box. There might be a couple of custom ones that I've added to this library, but the most part, all of these they all come with Revit. There is one in here. This overhead door, I downloaded that from a manufacturer and I put it in this folder, which really isn't good practice, but when you download things from a manufacturer or something, you should keep it in a separate folder. But yeah, so manufacturers are starting to provide their products in Revit so we can download them and put them into our model. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to load this into our model, and I'll place it into our wall. I'm kind of eyeballing it here, but you can also move them once they're in. You can move them and align them and get them into place. So I'm going to align this one. So my AutoCAD line stays there, and my Revit line is going to move, and it's going to align to it. So notice how when we're putting these walls in, these doors in, it automatically cuts the wall too. So they're very smart objects. Back here it could get a little bit tough. We don't know where to put our doors and windows because we put our Revit wall on top of it. We don't want to hide the walls because we want the walls here. We want to be able to put doors inside of them. So a good idea is to make the walls transparent. And we can do that in visibility graphics as well. So a little reminder, we went to VV for our visibility graphics. If we scroll all the way down here, we have walls. And if I click on that, it gives us all of these override buttons. I'm going to click on transparency. Good. And the more you slide this bar over, the more transparent it will be. Now we can see through our Revit walls and we can put windows in there. So I'm going to measure that window. Okay, we can't really see the height from a 2D drawing, but we could get that from another elevation or our AutoCAD file. So that's 3 feet wide. We could put a window in here that's 3 feet wide. Same thing, I'm just going to place it in. I'll align it later. It automatically cuts the wall, puts it in there. I'm going to go to my 3D view and check it out. So this is what we have so far. There's that window that we put in the back there. If these AutoCAD files are ever getting in our way and we want to turn them off, we could always go to visibility graphics and turn the entire drawing off. When we're in our floor plan, if we decide we don't want to see that anymore, it's getting cluttered, we go to visibility graphics, go back to imported categories, and the floor plan for level 1, we could just clear that checkbox and hit OK. And it turns the AutoCAD file off, and now we only see our Revit element. So if it gets a little bit confusing, you're not sure what's in Revit, what's in AutoCAD, you can go back and forth like that. You could always turn it back on. So we've talked a little bit about putting the walls in, the doors, and just using this AutoCAD file to get information and basically Revitizing it, converting it to a real Revit 3D model. Now we need to be able to take that model and put it onto a sheet. So to make a new sheet, a couple of different ways to make a sheet. One way is just to right click on sheets down here and say new sheet. There are some title blocks that come with Revit. I could click on this load icon here. It'll take us to that same library that it took us to when we were loading indoors. And if I scroll down in here, I can find title blocks. We can load in different size title blocks. Now these title blocks, you're going to have to make your own. So you could customize the ones that come with Revit to the sizes that you need and the way you need it to look for your company title block. But we've just created a sheet. We told it what size we want, what title block we want, and now we can take a file, not a file, but a view, and we can drag it onto this sheet. So I'm going to take this view here. Right from the project browser, I just dragged it into here and clicked to place it. Just like in AutoCAD, you have paper space and model space. If I double click inside of here, we're in model space. You can work in the model just like we were doing right in the view. And if you double click outside the viewport, you're back in paper space. That whole double click outside of the viewport, just like in AutoCAD. In AutoCAD, you can do that. We have our title block in paper space here. And it has two different types of information. It has project information and sheet information. This is very smart. We don't need to have part of our title block XREF'd anymore. So if you fill out project information, it knows that that project information is going to be the same on every sheet. So you only have to fill that out once. And then if it's sheet information, it knows it's going to be something different on each sheet. So things like the owner, the project name, project number, that's going to be the same on every sheet. You only have to fill that out once. And you can do that right here on the title block just like you can with an AutoCAD attribute. You just double click on it, type it in. Project name, the way this is being wrapped, we can fix the title block so it wraps a little bit nicer. I'll just take this out here. There we have that. Yeah, so project information is the same on every sheet, while sheet information like sheet name, sheet number, that you'll have to fill out for each sheet.
Okay, well, thank you everybody for attending. That was a wonderful presentation, Jeff. And we're now open for some questions and answers. You can also email us, sales@robotechcad.com, or contact us by phone, 201-792-6300, and either ask for Debbie or Mark, and we'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding the acquisitions of the software or questions that are more technically oriented. Thank you and have a great day.